Honestly, I think the entertainment industry might be the only business left that gets to profit directly off somebody's worst year, call it an inspiring turnaround once the dust settles, and get applauded for it instead of questioned. Nobody really blinks at that anymore because we've all been trained to watch these moments as something personal happening to a person, rather than what they actually are underneath, which is closer to a product line, timed to whenever a studio or a label decides the story's finally ready to sell again. Every comeback you've ever gotten a little emotional over, whether it was some actor's sobriety or some singer's meltdown, getting quietly repackaged a year later into a stripped-down acoustic reintroduction, got built the exact same way behind the scenes, on a timeline that was never really about the person standing at the center of it. I want to walk you through 4 versions of this, starting with the one you already half recognize, then the one where a studio actually turned it into a financial bet, then the one where it got forced onto someone who never did anything wrong to begin with, and one from a few months ago that might complicate everything I just said. Take Miley Cyrus, because her version of this is the one most people already carry around in their memory somewhere, even if they couldn't tell you the exact year. She tears through the bangers era, the VMAs with Robin Thicke, the foam finger, all of it. And for a while, the culture basically decides she's the cautionary tale, the child star who lost the plot completely. Then she goes quiet for a bit, and when she comes back, it's with an album called Younger Now, soft acoustic guitar instead of the twerking and the wrecking ball, a song about being happy and grown and finally settled, an interview after interview about how she's figured out who she really is underneath everything. And it works. The backlash softens, the narrative flips, and within a couple years, she's being talked about as someone who found herself instead of someone who lost it. Nobody clocked it as strategy while it was actually happening. Only as a comeback. I think most people watching that at the time genuinely believed they were watching her grow up in real time, and maybe some of it was real. I'm not saying none of it was, but it's also just the shape the story always takes, whether or not actual growth is what happened underneath it. Here's where it stops being just a vibe though, and starts being an actual number on a spreadsheet somewhere. Robert Downey Jr., before Iron Man, wasn't quietly working through something private. He was arrested multiple times through the 90s, once found passed out in a neighbor's kid's bed by accident, sentenced to actual prison time, the whole thing playing out across tabloids for years. So when Marvel was deciding who'd play Tony Stark in 2008, the studio's own former president later admitted flat out that the board thought he was out of his mind for handing the future of the entire company to a known addict. That's not a fan theory or an internet rumor. That's the guy who ran the studio, on the record, describing this as an actual internal gamble, the same way you'd gamble on unproven technology or a volatile stock nobody was sure would hold its value. Not exactly the underdog story it usually gets sold as. Downey's sobriety wasn't just something Marvel hoped would hold up. It got priced into a business plan before anyone could really promise it would stick. And it paid off so completely that about a decade later, when his name came up in the Endgame credits, audiences in theaters actually stood up and cheered, louder than for anyone else in that cast. I don't think there's a cleaner example anywhere in this industry of a redemption story getting underwritten like an investment before anyone even knew for sure the guy would stay clean. Now here's the part that actually complicates all of this, because not everyone who gets run through this cycle did something that needed forgiving in the first place. You probably already know the broad shape of the Britney story, so I'll move fast through that part. 13 years under a conservatorship controlled largely by her own father, unable to make basic decisions about her own money or her own body. And that isn't a scandal she caused. That's something that happened to her. She was never the one who needed to earn her way back into anyone's good graces. Here's the part that's easy to miss though. Once the conservatorship ended in 2021, the industry still tried to run her through nearly the same packaging it uses on people clawing back from actual wrongdoing. There was a reported $15 million memoir deal and offers from Oprah and 60 Minutes for the big sit-down interview, the one where she'd cry on camera and the whole arc would tie off neatly. She turned every single one of those down and did the entire promotion through her own Instagram and one emailed Q&A instead. And here's the detail that actually surprised me. The book still sold over 1 million copies in its first week anyway, one of the biggest debut weeks any memoirs had this decade, without a single television appearance behind it. Sit with that for a second, because it shows the industry was ready to run its exact packaging on her, whether she deserved it or not, and the demand was there either way. She's just the one who refused to hand over the piece they actually wanted, and it's not the first time either. This past January, when she was asked about ever getting back on a stage, she said flatly that she's done performing in the US for good, leaving the door open to shows overseas, but not here. However you read that, it plays like someone quietly refusing to hand over the one scene every redemption arc is built to end on, the triumphant return performance. Then there was the one exception, or so it seemed for years. Kanye, or Ye, built a reputation as the one person immune to all of this. No stripped down interview, no quiet season out of the spotlight, no soft acoustic reinvention album waiting on the other side of the backlash. Even after anti-Semitic remarks that cost him partnerships worth billions of dollars, he brushed off most of the backlash with a couple of quick, one-line statements that never actually explained or walked anything back. And neither the people who kept showing up for him nor the people who considered him finished ever got more than that. Here's the part a lot of people missed though. This past January, he finally did the real version, a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal that hit almost every beat of the formula on schedule, contrition, an explanation, a request for grace. Except the explanation wasn't a stripped-down album. It was his own account of a 4-month episode he described as psychotic and disconnected from reality, tied to a bipolar diagnosis, he said, traced back to a brain injury from the same car crash that had launched his career over 20 years earlier. I'm not qualified to say what's actually going on with him medically, and honestly, I don't think anyone watching from the outside is either. And here's the detail that made a lot of people immediately skeptical. The ad ran 4 days before he dropped a new album. I'll let you draw your own conclusions about that. And yeah, I know how that sounds, putting an ad campaign next to an actual health crisis in the same breath, but stick with me for a second, because that's sort of the unsettling part. Once someone's actual health crisis and the industry's redemption script start hitting the exact same beats, the tearful admission, the promise of change, the ask for understanding, it gets genuinely hard to tell which one you're watching from the outside. And I don't think that's a coincidence so much as it's the formula finally catching up with the one guy who spent years looking like he'd found a way around it. So maybe the real question was never whether any of these people actually deserve to be forgiven. Maybe it's whether the redemption arc was ever really about them in the first place, or whether it's just a shape the industry needs somebody to fill every few months, guilty or innocent, addict or victim, real crisis or convenient timing, because a comeback is simply better content than someone who never left to begin with, and the person quietly staying fine was never going to trend the way a fall and a rise does. I don't think that makes every single one of these moments fake, to be clear. I think Downey's sobriety is real, and I think Britney never should have had to earn her way back into anything to begin with. I just think the machine built around all of them stopped caring which parts of the story were true a long time ago, as long as there was still a next chapter to sell, and that's really what should sit with you here. Not whether any one of these people deserved what they got, but that an entire industry got built on never having to tell the difference. Whether that bothers you or not, honestly, that's on you to decide.